Hi, welcome to today's session, and I'm one of your hosts, Mike Gannotti, where we're going to be talking about Copilot use cases for clinician managers. And today's session really applies to all managers, but we're going to specifically be calling out some examples for clinician managers that we think are appropriate. And I'm joined today by my co-host,
Jim Warner. Oh, that was my cue.
Here we go.
All right. Hey, everyone.
And Jim and I are colleagues working. He's busy adding, letting people into the meeting. So I'll go ahead and let him in. But just as a couple of pieces of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, at the end of today's session, we will be recording this session. It's being recorded now. So if you don't want to be on the recording, please feel free to leave. It's okay. But if you have questions for us, we'll be queuing those up at the end, but feel free to, as you have them, post them into the Q&A. We don't have extra moderators today to be able to monitor that and kind of jump in, but we'll have plenty of time for that today. So feel free to post those. The recording will be posted to our blog site at aka.ms/HLS-blog. That's aka.ms/HLS-blog. So be sure to put that in your favorites and check back there often. There is a ton of Copilot information coming down the pike there, and we want to meet your needs. So please take a look and add that to your favorites. But that's where the recording will be today. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about what Copilot for Microsoft 365 in regards to managers, clinician managers, what it is not. Real quickly, that's going to go through very quick. Then we're going to get into the meat of today, which is all about demos and how-tos. So everything that you see today, we are going to include as part of the resources. Our prompts will be on that posted blog afterwards. So you'll actually be able to take those, modify them, use them for yourself. So we encourage that. We will have time for open QA, and we have a ton of resources we'll provide as well that will be posted on the blog and we'll show you today. So just by way of introducing today, the age of Copilots has arrived. If you haven't caught on, Microsoft is big about Copilots, and a Copilot really is that assistant that helps you get your work done. It is a user-initiated action, not a replacement to people, but an assistant, as you'll see today. And how can this be beneficial, this assistant that you're going to see right within the flow of work in the applications you're already using today as a manager, working with clinicians? So first of all, and I'm looking over here to my big screen, one of the areas, it is a digital assistant that can help with all kinds of aspects of your work, especially those activities where you're within the Microsoft 365 stack, your email, your Teams meetings like we're in right now, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. All those things and many more light up. And if you don't see an application lit up today, chances are you will see it soon. Even Paint is lit up, and I just saw an announcement for Notepad recently. So keep your eyes open. Copilots to assist you in everything. It can help you analyze data. That's going to be one of the first things that we'll see for somebody like myself who hates Excel. It is a great help when I have to do data analyzing and providing that to management. It also can help with clinical staff meetings, generating lists of key points from speakers. We'll see all that. Onboarding materials that you might need to create. And really the idea is, as a clinician manager, all that busy work that we're perpetually, inundated with, right, on a daily basis, it will help to alleviate some of the pressure and burden of that so that you can tune in to what you really are there for, which is, number one, helping your staff to do the best job they can do, and in turn, impacting and improving patient outcomes, right? That's what it's all about. And as a manager in general, just helping you to get your work done, right? And have less of the busy overhead. What it is not. So in our case, talking about healthcare and life sciences, Copilot is not going to help you with your patient. It's not going to diagnose. It's not going to say open wide and awe or let me listen in. I'm your co-pilot. You can see how professional I was in handling that stethoscope. But it's not going to do any of that, right? It is not taking the job of the clinician or the clinician manager, or any manager for that matter. It is that assistant. It's not going to be used for billing in this case. It's not going to, we're not interfacing directly, although there could be situations where you could set it up, but we're not interfacing with your EMR. We're not getting in there with those things, and we're not doing things with prescriptions and those kind of activities. It's again around these managerial activities that we'll be taking a look at, particularly repetitive tasks that take so much of our time during the day. So we have a number of use cases. We've divided them up, not exactly one-to-one here. I'm going to kick off showing ones in Excel, then in Teams, and then Outlook. And then Jim is going to show you the other three around Word, around Forms, which is killer, I got to tell you. I'm jealous he's showing that one. And then PowerPoint. And so, you know, thinking of some things that we're typically going to do, we're going to look at, in my case, I'm going to talk about analyzing trend analysis. We're going to look at meeting recaps and the great benefit, and also doing some basic research in Teams. For we're going to be looking at, I believe, what am I looking at today? We're going to take a look at, it is going to be around, it's cancer, and we're going to look at, if I could see, there we go, oh, pancreatic cancer. And then we're going to take a look after that around doing some schedule updates in Outlook, and it's all pretty killer. So with that in mind, I am going to get out of PowerPoint. I know that upsets everybody greatly. And right from here, we are going to start in, oh, I wanted this up, my OneDrive. And so I have some sample work here. The first one is going to be in Excel, and we want to take a look at data analysis. So if you're like me, having to provide, you know, showing trends and an analysis of data, it could be around patient usage of rooms, et cetera. The things that you have to report up to management on, that can be painstaking. We often fumble back and forth with things. And I'm going to just open up a sample data sheet. This is an HR one. I don't have medical data for this particular instance. The rest we do. But in this particular one, we're just going to use an HR example one, where you can see there's multiple tabs of information here. All kinds of data that's been captured. And what I need to do is to report back to management on some of the trends. And as this gets updated, be able to do that on an ongoing basis. If you're like myself, turning this data into a Power Pivot and then all the chart views off of that, that is painstaking, painful, and it takes time. Jim, I know you love doing that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm super good at it. It might take me a day or two to do one pivot chart.
I mean, it's the kind of thing we all, it's painful. And, but it's oftentimes very necessary. And so that's where Copilot comes into play. So in this case, and I'm going to switch between web view and client view. So this one I thought I'd show the web because this will work both in the client and the web easily. But you can see here, I have Copilot, my digital assistant, leveraging the power of AI, right in the flow of work. So I'm in here in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I could start to free type different activities and things that I would like to see around this data. I'm going to keep it simple for today. I do have some prompts that you can do with this with this data in particular, and I'll provide some of those sample ones in addition. But you can see it's already asking me, do you want to create formula columns, highlight things, edit things, understand or analyze? Then it has some sample questions. So for example, show data insights. I need to see that because I have to report on it and show my management. It's a one click, and it's now analyzing this huge spreadsheet with multiple tabs. And it's saying, okay, let's look at the data. Let's figure out some representation of that data. It's doing all this in real time as we're watching. And in just a second here, we're going to see There it is. There's the first now. Now notice it says it's still finishing up. Why? Because it was able to draw that particular piece right up here and then give an explanation of it. But it further finished all of its analysis. And what did it do? It then said, oh, do you want to see another insight? And then I get that immediately, right? I'm getting those immediately because it's all done. It knows everything about the data. And so rather than going piecemeal and adding, I can say add all those insights to the grid. And so now it's created a new tab on the bottom, and it's going to drop those in. It's taken all the data, created a power, some power pivots down here. In fact, if we scroll down, there we go. And you'll see that this data, it's malleable. I can edit, I can change parameters, things we're looking at, just like you would normally do, but it's done all the heavy lifting for me. Same thing here with our charts. You can see here in the different fields, and I can, change with the selections of what we're looking at. But Copilot has done all the heavy lifting for me, so I no longer have to be concerned with, fumbling through all that. So big help, big time savings. That's Excel today, out of the box. But what about Teams? We're here in a meeting.
Wait, hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm getting a comment. Your screen's really big. This text is really small. Can you magnify this a little bit so people can see this a little bit better?
Can I magnify? I forget how to magnify.
I think you can just control and then scroll button. I think that'll zoom you
Look
in.
at that. See, I never use that. Now I got to move the spreadsheet over. Let me just get back up. And there we go. So there you go. So you can see it's gone ahead, and it's created all those views. Here's those views that we were talking about right within here, where we're seeing some. It's created all that data and structured it into a usable format. So I'm going to go back out, and thank you for showing me that. And now let's just go ahead. We're going to minimize that, and we are going to go over to Microsoft Teams. And I've opened up a view. This is a pre-existing piece that we did because I don't want to, we don't want to show real data here. But what we're seeing here is a recording of a meeting. And the beauty of Copilot is it does a number of things for meetings, both live and after the fact, that we can do. So if you're like us and you're a manager, you're probably being double, triple booked, overbooked with overlapping meetings, et cetera. And so if you need to be able to get the data, the first thing that it will provide you with Copilot is after the fact, the AI will go through for that meeting. If it's been recorded, it's going to give you a view here where you can see the speakers when they spoke. So here's Sue Venzel, for example. And if I want to skip to any particular piece, I don't need to see the whole thing. I just want to see where she spoke and what she spoke about. I can do so. Or Pete Anello here. Or, oh, here's this guy. I know him. Here's Jim Warner. Let's see when he spoke. He spoke up in here. I can get all that. It's also looked at the topics, what was spoken about. And we also have individual chapters that we can speak to. Additionally, we have notes and other things. But the beauty of it is, while I get this after the meeting view, Copilot allows me during and after the meeting to query it. So for example, I can come in here and I can ask it some questions. So I could say, show me the main points spoken by Sue Venzel. So if you had a meeting and you had, different people in that particular meeting and you wanted to summarize what they said, I could have said summarize, the main points by Sue Venzel, or show me the main points, whatever. In here we go. And it's going through and grabbing those main points. It's even giving me references to the timestamp and what was said at that particular moment based off of the transcript. I'll wait till it finishes. There we go. And so you can see here when that was said exactly. And then I can go, of course, and I can copy that to take those offline if I needed to. I can also look at action items. Hey, list me the action items from the meeting. But you can do this not only after and query what went on, who said what and when. You can do it during the meeting live. So in the case of Copilot, if we wanted to actually go in, perhaps I had an overlapping meeting by 30 minutes. And I'll go ahead and let me see. Well, yeah, we'll zoom in. There you go. So people can see that a little more. So there you can see it's gone in. It's given me, whoa, I did a little too much. Jim, you've given me a dangerous weapon with that control.
Yeah.
Control scroll.
So what are the requirements here, Mike? So what does it take for this to work?
Yeah, so, oh boy. I should not have done that here. Here we go. All right. So for this to work, number one, they need to have Copilot, right? That's obvious for them to have access to this view.
Check.
The other thing is, though, they need, in this case, to see the recording and all that, they need to turn on record and transcription to have that for this after the fact archive, right, where they can see the recording. If they don't care about the recording of the meeting, but they want to have after the fact querying, they need to at least have transcription turned on. And in those organizations where they're even hesitant about that, there is the capability to turn off where they don't have transcription in this enabled, but to have it enabled so that during the meeting, they can query, but not after the meeting, where we can do a temporary store of a transcription underlying our infrastructure in something called the Cosmo DB, and it'll automatically be purged as soon as the meeting's done. But that'll give you the ability to query stuff during meetings. So number of options, but the best is the best experience is recording with transcription, bar none. That's one thing that you can do in Teams, but meetings is bar none the biggest area we see people doing. But I also, I've had people wanting to do research and then they'll realize right within Teams is this Copilot chat capability where you can ask it to do all kinds of stuff, summarize my emails, all kinds of things. But what if I wanted to do research on a given topic? So I'm going to say here, I'm working on a presentation about pancreatic cancer. Can you help me find the latest case studies to include? Research. It could be my patient suffering from the following. What's the latest, things from the New England Journal of Medicine or other areas of research, et cetera. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select to send that. And it's now going to look at our internal systems. And because at Microsoft, we've enabled the web plugin, it's also going to research out on the internet looking for data, both. And so here you go. You can see from your company, it did find a paper. I found a case study from the Microsoft research titled Development and Validation of a Pancreatic Cancer Risk Model for General Purpose. And so we've got that with a link to that piece. We can see that there. And then from the web, we see additional case studies. If I want, I can expand that and I can go into any one of these. Those are links, so I can go straight to those sources. So right away, instead of me fumbling through the web and those 10, one of 10 trillion million, it's provided me a much more narrowly focused research view. It's also then, look at this. This is the beautiful thing. So it says, look, tell me more about the Microsoft or find more use cases. Can you help me with a presentation outline? It's smart enough to know what you asked it initially for and suggest follow-up questions. So if I wanted a simple outline then to kind of pull together my thoughts and save off somewhere as I'm doing research, I simply need to select it. I could have queried and said some additional things I wanted it to do, but just like that, Copilot, again, did all my research, synthesized, brought it together for me, and now it's taken my research and based off of the research I just did, created a baseline outline for me based upon those documents that it just found. And there we go. Teams. So think of the power of that working with your folks, right? And the daily things that you need to do on the latest sterilization processes or whatever the case might be. Quick, easy research, leveraging Copilot right within Teams.
Yeah, and then real quick, Mike,
Yeah.
I got another follow-up question.
Yeah.
What if I just want to search internal documentation versus that? Can you show like where you can turn off that little slider to say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't.
Great
Yeah.
question. So right here in the piece, it looks like 4 little boxes with the upper right one in a diamond. You simply, and when you mouse over it, it says plugins. If I click that, it's going to show me, I just had them, the plugins that are available. And you can see I have web content enabled. I'd simply select that and it would disable it and be internal only. And if you don't enable, if your org didn't enable that for you, that's what you'd be looking at was your internal resources anyways, right? So that is Teams. That's just 2 quick examples. My last one before I hand it over to Jim, because he has some really cool examples, is email. And that's something, if you're like me, you're in email hell. I'm drowning in email on a daily basis. And so it can do all kinds of things, summarizing email threads. I'm not going to get into all that. We're going to give you resources for that. But I did want to show you how it can help on something like drafting an email. So as a manager of clinicians here, I want to come in, I want to draft with Copilot. And look at it, it's already grabbed my some information about me. I'm just going to draft an email communicating the schedule update to clinicians. We're changing the schedule for my clinicians working in the maternity ward. Schedules will reflect a change of 30 minutes at shift change to accommodate the new handoff huddle procedure. So very common for those working in hospitals. They have the huddles where they hand off information and, from the outgoing and the incoming to get all up to speed on what's happening. I need to communicate we're doing a 30-minute change on that. I don't want to sit here and think about all that. I've already got a million things. My head's ready to explode as a clinician manager. I want Copilot to handle the heavy lifting where I just do some minor changes or edits. So I'm going to come in here and it's creating the draft. And again, this is now based off of that information and prompt that I gave it. It's looking at internal Microsoft information. Thankfully, we actually have a lot of internal documents around healthcare because we have a whole healthcare and life sciences group here. But it's going ahead and doing that. It did it a little quicker this morning. So hopefully it'll quickly catch up. Creating the draft. I might have to, I've had that window just sitting open. So if it doesn't give it to me in about 20, 30 seconds, we'll close it and reopen a new email. Oh, there we go. So I didn't have to do that. And now I could go in, I could change, right? I could ask it to make it more formal or whatever. I'm just going to say keep it. And I'm going to, so that you can see what it did. I know I'm not going to zoom in. There you go. Hello, clinicians. I hope this email finds you where you're enjoying your work in the maternity ward. I'm writing to inform you. As you may already know, we are implementing a new handoff huddle procedure to improve communication and patient safety during shift changes. It understood that. This procedure involves a brief meeting between the outgoing and incoming teams to review the status and care. And notice it's gone in to accommodate the new procedure. We are adjusting by 30 minutes. It goes on and explains all that. I can go in, do some minor edits, and get rid of the heavy lifting. That's, for me, somebody who emails frequently, this can be huge. So that's 3 scenarios using, we started with Excel, data manipulation. Then I went into Teams and showed you meetings and also research. And then emailing, how Copilot can assist you with emailing. I'm now going to stop sharing. My colleague Jim is going to begin sharing, and he has 3 scenarios that I'm excited to see because one of them is just killer. So Jim,
all right,
all yours.
I was trying to answer a couple questions in the chat.
Cool.
I only got to 1.
That's all right. We'll queue them up after.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to start with creating some onboarding material. So from a clinical manager, that could really save some time with generating content based on existing documentation. So for example, here you can see I have a senior ER nurse job description up here on my screen, but I might want to generate a deck that, let me get a new PowerPoint up and running. But you can see here, I want to create a presentation. From that job description, so I can help the new nurse on board. So I got PowerPoint up here. Let me make it full screen. You can see here I have a couple suggestions to start me off inside of Copilot and PowerPoint. So I'm going to create a presentation. I'm going to base it on that existing job description. So I'm going to say create a presentation from, and you can see as I start typing, it starts filtering down all the files that I have available to me. So I'm just going to select senior ER nurse job description. I'm going to go ahead and click run. So what this will do, it'll come through the source file, in this case, the job description, and it'll create an outline. And you'll see here, hopefully in a minute or two, not only it'll generate the outline, it'll produce the slides, and then it'll also produce notes for the slides. So just based on that one pager of a job description, you can see here, I'm getting some sample information back, or my outline, and then it'll start populating these slides here in a second.
I love this one, by the way.
Yeah, I like generating content based off existing content. It's just such a powerful way to do things. I mean, it's so efficient and fast that I can save a ton of time by doing stuff like this. So okay, so you see, I got my 21 slides, right? So it's quite thorough here. But you can see I get my outline. But my slides, more importantly, you can see they get generated. It took some liberties and actually added stuff from our gallery. You can see the various images here, but it also has generated slide notes. So if, example, if Mike was using earlier, if I wanted to generate some research information, and I had a research paper and I wanted to create a presentation on that, you could do that, and it does a pretty thorough job. You can see here, creating all these different slides and notes to go along with that. And I want to point out up at the top here, so you can see that my job description actually was labeled already, right? It had a sensitivity label on there of general. It could have been confidential, but you can see here that it's pulled in the sensitivity label from the source content and it's applied it to this document. So if I save this, it'll apply that sensitivity label to this document as well. So, okay, so I'm gonna move on to I'm gonna create a form. I'm gonna create a survey for nurses. And I think this is the one that Mike that he really likes. So you can see I'm here inside of Microsoft Forms. I'm going to click on the new form button. And you can see by default, it comes up with draft with Copilot. And I'm going to put in a fairly comprehensive prompt here. So I'm going to give it a goal. I'm going to ask for, or going to provide some context. And I'm also going to provide some expectations in here. So that's really some of the art of the prompt, right? These are the things that as you start using Copilot, you want to start, understanding what are the main components? How do I prompt this properly? And this is a great example of I'm putting in goal, context, and expectations. There's a couple other things you can add into your prompts, but for this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click generate.
This is like magic, this one to me.
Right? Yeah, this one is really neat. for sure. So you can see this would have took me at least a couple hours to generate this survey, but you can see on the fly, right? I gave it expectations, but it's giving that summary, right? What is this survey for? It's asking for with very little, input other than I want to know about your professional training, the education, how it's impacting your job, or what are all the different things that are impacting your job, right? And it's actually providing all these prompts or all these questions, right, and answers that you can in the survey. So I'm going to go ahead and click keep it, and then I can take this and I can send this survey out. So in a matter of minutes, I've produced a pretty thorough survey for nurses. Okay, so again, as a clinical manager, I might need to provide some sort of root analysis. In this example, I'm going to use a power outage at a facility, right? Something happened, power went out, it impacted, staff and patients. So I have this very basic power outage incident report. You can see some general information inside of here, right? Summary, causes, impact, timeline, and the stakeholders. So now I'm going to actually use new document. I'm going to use Copilot. So it can be invoked not only up in the top corner, but by default, it says, do you want to start your document? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it some goals and expectations and a source. So here, and in the terms of prompting, you can see I got create a comprehensive root causes analysis based on this incident report. I'm going to provide a source file for this. So you can see I'm going to go ahead and select my power outage incident report. I'm going to generate. So what this will do in a minute or two is produce this root cause analysis. Yeah, and to your point, Mike, this is one of the best ways to generate content. If you have some existing content, the examples, research papers, job descriptions, so on and so forth, you can really save a ton of time, right? This is taking that one pager of the incident report and it's generating a very comprehensive root cause analysis here.
Yeah, just being able to zero in and then letting the AI do all that reasoning over it and coming back. I love it. Even with Word, it always introduces, has all the supportive stuff, and then it concludes. So
yeah,
beautiful.
I mean, right? Yeah. If you ask for SWOT analysis, executive summaries, I mean, it understands that context and it presents it in the response.
Awesome.
And again, so we're pulling in that sensitivity label real quick, right? So that incident report was labeled. You can see that it's pulling in that source sensitivity label,
which is huge and important.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we have a lot of questions.
Oh boy.
And we're going to be very careful as we read them out loud. If there's a reference to a customer name, we're not going to say those names just because, for the recording. I know people sometimes get excited and say things, but I guess we can start. I'm really going to look like Dr. J. I'm going to put on my glasses.
All right.
Go full official. And I guess, we'll start at the bottom. So it says you turned off the ability to change the view in this meeting. Oh, that was about the size. Sorry about that, Rob. I just took the default on it. Can we get the sample Excel file posted? Yeah, that's a sample file, so I will post that. We're going to post not necessarily all the files like that, but we'll post what we can and also prompts.
Yeah, and if you have Copilot and you want to test this out, Copilot will actually generate a table of sample data for you as well. It does a pretty thorough job. It's a small data set, but you can actually generate that using Copilot.
Why didn't I think of that? That's a good. I wish you had done that. Can I hop on that meeting time point by just clicking the number? Yes. Yeah. So when you click that, boom, it takes you to that time point. Yeah, it's a pretty killer thing. That's, again, the number one use of Copilot out of the box is meetings, because we're all, when we talk about not clinicians themselves, but the managers, they're just like, they're being hammered, right, with meetings. And so that ability is huge. You'll be able to go after the fact or catch up where you're overlapping meetings. For the team's functions, I want to know if the meetings have to be recorded, or can it be done with it recording off? I'm going to assume that's it. And I think we addressed that already. Did you want to summarize that again, Jim? Just as far as
yeah. So Copilot requires transcriptions. You can also do recording. Copilot is not dependent upon that recording. But if you have a point in the transcript that you're asking Copilot about, and it cites it, you can click to that point in not only in the transcript, but you can, if the meeting recording was there, you could jump to that point in the recording too. So they're best. It's like peanut butter and jelly, right? Better together. But Copilot only requires transcriptions.
The next question is a great one, because it gets into what it is and what it isn't, right? And what we're aiming for, at least at this point. It says, what is the risk of AI hallucination, or that a question on medical research issues may provide made up or inaccurate data? What is the liability risks of using Copilot for medical subjects? So the first thing, you were smiling. Go ahead. I'm going to let you speak up first.
Well, we kind of gave the whole disclaimer in the beginning, right? This is something that Copilot, we're not connecting to that EHR data. We're not. I mean, you can use it for research analysis. It really depends on your sources, right? So your source information is going to be really important. What do you have internally versus what's external? Because I don't believe everything that's on the internet. So I understand. So you have source information. That's one of the main concerns that I'm thinking of. But I don't know. What else can you add to that, Mike?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the end, when we're doing, let's say, where's one that, did I have any docs? I don't think I kept any open. But when I'm creating content, right, and I invoke Copilot, it's my assistant. It's not me. It's my assistant. Now, if you had an assistant working for you and you asked an assistant to do something for you, to compose, and then you were going to send it out, you would do what? You would review it, you would edit it, because it's your name on that, because the liability on what you're doing is on you. Nothing changes with that. This is an assistant. So think of it as that. The data that you get back, when you create that Word doc, when you create that PowerPoint, it's your name on it, not Copilot. It is an assistant to help. So that's the first thing. Always you need to review and edit, because you're on the hook for it, not that AI. Number two, when we're talking about hallucinations, we have done a ton of work putting in what we call guardrails and filters, so that we're not bringing back data that is non-existent. That was a problem, and was problematic early on with Copilot and with all the AIs, right? You go out to OpenAI and you use stuff. A lot of times it just makes stuff up where there's not there, because it wants to answer you. We've done a lot of work around that, and our process for returning data, there's a whole architectural thing. I'm not going to get into all that today. It is different than what they're doing, so that we're removing the propensity for those hallucinations. It's not to say they can't happen, but it would be very rare. So that is something that's changed fundamentally from when we first were in early access with Copilot till present. That's kind of taking care of itself. But ultimately, it's your name on the hook. Remember that. This is not, there are other AIs that are custom made by orgs looking at your EMR data and all that kind of stuff for pulling back just particular data. No matter what you produce, your name's on the hook, so be sure to review. All right. Is it correct for, I'm just going to say, for an organization, the data accessed on the internet will be limited to data up till 2021? So the data that is accessed, if you're doing the web component, you're actually accessing the Bing search engine. So the short answer is no, that's not the case. It's based upon the indices of the search engine. Internal data, it's based upon the graph, and that's accumulation of all the graph data that's already there, right? Same on the internet. It's the Bing search engine. So it's limited to what the Bing search engine has within its indices versus what it's purged, what it thinks is no longer there or non-cached data.
Yeah, I think that's rooted in the basis of the free version of ChatGPT, right? That's
Yes.
kind of limited in scope.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. It's based off of a point. Yeah, so that's a great point. They did their training, and you're accessing the trained models data, not the internet directly. And it was based upon point in time trainings. That's not the case with ours. Ours is leveraging the live indices of Bing on the fly, so much different. Next, I am not seeing Copilot in my Excel ribbon. I'm also not seeing it in email or PowerPoint. So there's a couple. There's a lot of things that could be possible. One, do you have the most current version of Office? You have to be on current channel for those things to light up in the client. Number two, you need to be licensed and enabled with those applications for Copilot by your organization. I mean, I'd say talk to your IT. It would be the.
Yeah.
Can I create a new presentation of a document in an existing template? Oh, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had a template, you can of course use that template and generate content with Copilot in it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the short answer is yes, and like PowerPoint's a great one for showing that with the templates.
Yeah, Word. So if you had letterhead, something like that, you could use any of the Office templates and generate content with Copilot.
Absolutely. Does Copilot remove your prompt before creating the form? I think that's yours.
Remove the prompt before it creates the. So it's actually I can share real quick again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually see in the response. I have the option to keep the thing, or I can fine tune this. Oh, sorry, it's doing a refresh.
Well, I do know it takes that prompt and it rephrases it as that kind of intro to the form, right?
Right. Yeah, I'd have to run it again, but essentially you can. It saves the prompt, and I can. In this particular case, I kept this, and it's committed this survey at this point. But it'll keep the prompt at the bottom once it's done with the response, and I can either delete the response, refine the prompt, and those are the options I have. So it still saves that. And that's for the forms. Now, when Mike was doing his demo for the M365 chat, there's an actual history, and you can go back to those points in time and see the results of that history. So you have history that's saved in that format.
So here's an interesting question, and it has to do with Word. And this says, can you post a link to an existing internal or external website to generate that report? And today for Word, are aren't we
I don't think
limiting
so.
it to a particular
Yeah.
document type?
Yeah. It's based on internal documents. You can't reference external right now.
Yeah. But for an internal website, an intranet, could they refer to that specific page, or is it to documents only today when you do that reference? I thought it was just to a particular doc.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yep.
So the short answer is no. I will tell you there are additions coming to the whole referencing, and I don't know what's NDA and what's not, so I'm going to stay clear on what I say there. But there are many more options. That's an area of, now that they've gotten it kind of out the gate, one of the big things that they're working on is around the ability, a lot of flexibility in how and what you're referencing and pulling in. I will tell you this, though, if you're looking to narrow those results, one thing that I've done for internal, and this came from one of my large multinational orgs that I work with, they had a lot of documents in repositories and they wanted to reference a bunch of PDFs. And so I said, I did was show them how in the prompt, call out the titles. And it actually went and I created Word docs based upon, I did comparison, commonalities. This was based off of medical devices in this case. And I said, hey, go and do, and I listed some titles because there were PDFs with those titles in the repository. That's what it grabbed and then did the write-ups based off of it. So there's some tricks, but there are more things coming for point, click, and select. What else do we have? Oh, I said open up. Okay, here we go. Can I point out the source documents to be used for PowerPoint?
Yeah. So the source files are referenced. You can use the / command. You can use there should also be a reference file button that you can click on, but you can reference one or more files. The easiest way to do it, and I think someone else was asking how to do that. I think Oscan. Yeah, so you can use the reference, the / file for reference, or the reference file button to reference your files. If you're not seeing in your suggested, you can actually start typing and it'll start filtering based on the character match.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to the next question. I'm trying to create a presentation from a file, but it only shows me suggested. Right. You can give it the URL to the file as well, right? Right after that /.
Yeah, you can do that.
And the other thing to keep in mind, unless there's been an update and it's changed, while they're going to have additional file types today, it is a Word document that we're referencing with PowerPoint, right? Specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so additional ones coming. If it's in PDF, open the PDF in Word and save as a Word doc. So then you have that. That's my little end around for that. In your form, if I look at the results in the Excel format, does that have Copilot to analyze the responses?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Excel should have that. So if you're enabled for Copilot, you got the Copilot license, you open the results in Excel, you should be able to process that information with that. I will say the data right now in Excel, it has to be in a table. So you do have to get that data into a table to process properly.
And just so you know, and if it's not, it will tell you it has to be in a table, and it'll tell you what to do. It'll say go to insert table, and then all of a sudden the commands will light up. So just be on the lookout.
I think that might change over time, but right now it's dependent upon a table.
A table. General question, is there a disclaimer or any indicator in AI generated content so that a reader knows, so that the reader, not the producer, So we do warn you at the end before you say keep it. It says maybe, inaccurate. This goes back to the very beginning, what I said. It's your content. An assistant did the initial work. It is a draft. You should always think of the work done as a draft that you need to review, edit where needed, and then send out because it's your name on it. There is no other indicator because it's your content that an assistant helped you with. So please keep that in mind. It reduces repetitive tasks, but it doesn't eliminate.
Yeah. Everything that it produces, you'll always see that little reference that says this content was generated by Copilot, right? So if you do a full, just click the copy button, you're going to get that in the response. It'll say generated by Copilot. So you can always delete that out of your document, or when you paste that into your destinations file. But essentially, everything that gets generated will have that little tag in there.
And I don't see any additional questions. See anything? Any final thoughts, Jim, on just this whole clinician manager space and the use of Copilot?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about what Copilot is, right, this generative AI, and we think about the types of things that it can do, right? It can summarize, it can answer questions, it can provide instruction, it can do comparisons. It can also help you be creative. It can do translations as well. So some of the content that we've done today, we could actually said, can change this to Japanese, for example. And it'll do that on the fly. But it's also the types of prompts, completion and dialogue prompts. So these are all the main types of prompts. And when you start thinking about how this technology can save you time, and you think about the types of prompts that generative AI can handle, that's where you're really going to see a lot of the power, right? It's creating content for you. You can further refine that using generative AI. So I think these are really important as we start, leveraging this technology to become more productive, more efficient, and probably more accurate as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And again, we showed you examples. And by the way, I just want to stress, and I should have said this up front. We kept this simple today. Very quick, easy, repetitive tasks that you do. There are other scenarios, and we're going to be publishing videos walking through a more complex scenario where you might be using 2 or 3 different applications for complex workflow of the full onboarding process, for example, for a new staff member, or some other activity that you might have. So we totally understand there's a whole range of things from the simple to the more complex. We wanted today to address really those repetitive, simple tasks that we do over and over and over. So that's what we provided some examples of. But certainly think about your tasks and how you can daisy chain some of these in a full workflow.
Yeah, there's one last one. How does one learn to become a super prompter? I think that goes to the art of the prompt, right? Understanding, if I just had to give you the 30 seconds clip note here, right? There's going to be 4 things that you want to understand. You want to provide a goal. You want to provide context. You want to set the expectation and the source. Those are the 4 key components to a good prompt, just period, right? So that's the base level. Goal, context, expectations, and source.
Yeah. No, excellent. I did see some other ones popped up. One asked, do you have any sessions on clinician managers can do with Copilot chatbot, formerly Bing Chat Enterprise? We don't, and we could have included something today. I'll tell you what we will do. There's a new series we're starting, again, addressing the simple, called Copilot Snacks. I commit to we will do so probably within the week.
And I meant to mention this too when I was generating some of the job description stuff. You could always, let's say you had a 500-page manual. I mean, you could do a simple little, we'll call it a Copilot bot, right? You can open that document, open Copilot, and you can actually query that document So 500 pages in natural language, and it would be almost like your own little like no code FAQ bot, right? You could actually go in and query that document very easily. But yeah, there's more robust situations where you can do plugins and connectors and all these other things. But I just wanted to mention that. And you can also use multiple source documents. So it's really important, you can do compares and between resumes or, certain files.
And just to pull this up again, well, I didn't show it, but our site, as I mentioned, I'll put the link in here. I've been trying to like keep it on the down, kind of quiet. We haven't been out on LinkedIn, but people are already evidently seeing the snackables. I published one just before this presentation, and 280 people have already looked at it. So we're doing a series called Copilot Snacks. The link, the easy link, and I'm going to publish it right here into the QA. We gave it a user-friendly link. It's http, where am I at? Oh, ps://aka.ms/Copilot snacks. That should be it. Yep. And there we go. So this Copilot snacks, I just put the link here into the QA, but it'll bring you to this page where we're going to update, and you can see like Copilot Word. I'm going to add one for what he just asked about, that particular, using that piece. So we have, ones for Word, Outlook, Copilot. I mean, we're just starting to prime the pump. You'll see a number of these weekly from now until July at the very earliest or latest. But you can see we're doing it by different classifications. We have even Windows. So like how to add a printer to your or Bluetooth device quick to your computer. It does it for you. So lots of these menial tasks. And as we continue to see the Copilot stack increase in other applications, you'll see that reflected here as well, where we want to do very short pieces. So, just as a quick example, this one here was something I got asked about. So this is taking a professional journal. Here's the video for that. And I used a template. I used the standard medical template in PowerPoint, and went through. So you'll see a quick introduction. There'll be the video, a link back to the overall page, and then you'll find the resources and any of the prompts used in that particular piece. So you'll see many of these starting to pop up, and I promise you, I even have this afternoon.
Do you have a LinkedIn, the LinkedIn link? Or is that just, so the Copilot Snacks is the best place to go,
it just takes you to this, to not that page.
Okay, Teresa was asking Copilot Snacks on LinkedIn, where can I find it? So, but Copilot Snacks, so it's pinned up
on our blog.
Top. Yeah, it's pinned up at the top, Teresa. So you'll see Mike's response with the aka.ms Copilot Snacks.
And then add that to your favorites. Because what I've done is we have a whole team now that's volunteered, and they're going to be starting this week. I just primed the pump with a few. They volunteered to start doing all these quick 10-minute or less how to use Copilot with work. And I see a new post just went, or new question. Oh, thanks. Cool. Anything else, Jim, before we sign off?
No.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us. And hopefully this was helpful. And next week will be Copilot for Executives with Jaspreet and Company. Ooh. All right.
Thanks,
have a great one. I'll put up the link shortly to our blog, again, aka.ms/HLS blog. And I'll put that out on LinkedIn as well shortly, and you'll have a link to next week's session. But thank you. This is Mike.
This is Jim.
And you have a great day. Take care. And we're going to stop recording now.